should be able to hit it, so more just like keep an eye on my form. But like I said, I'm doing this on a full belly, so.
Survive on my own, so I'll walk through life on my own. I'm a ghost. I'm not done when it comes. No, I won't run, won't hold my tongue. This is the enemy, you'll see me again, I guarantee. I'm not done, I won't run when my time comes. You think you've won, won't be denied.
What's up, guys? So it is Monday of week 10. We've made it. Like, I never doubted that I would make it this far, obviously, but like, we're doing this. Like, every day, the meet and half marathon, like, 12-hour window, like, just feels more real and like normal. Because like this whole program, I've told myself, like, there's no failure here. Like, we're gonna get it done. It doesn't matter what my numbers are, what the time is, like, we're just gonna get it done. So, you know, we're at the point in a meet program where I always feel tired. Like, 3 weeks out from a meet, I'm just exhausted. That exhaustion honestly carries through until meet day. Like, I get hype on meet day, I perform really well, and then like I'm tired for a couple days after. I refeed from like dieting for 12 weeks and like I start to feel better. But right now it's just putting up with this fatigue because I'm just exhausted all the time. It doesn't matter how much sleep I get, how much recovery I get, I'm just tired. So this past weekend was supposed to be my long run on Saturday, but we had a long all-day Marine Corps event that we ended up covering, I think, like 6 or 7 miles, like through the trees, and through that. And so I took that 6 or 7 miles and I added it on to, later in the day, about 5 o'clock at night when I got home, I did a 5-mile run outside. So that was my like 10-mile cover for the day, just because like I was tired, and, even pushing that 5 miles made the rest of that night incredibly hard for me. So today I'm feeling that run in my quads, but we do have a heavy squat today. Last week we hit 325, so today's goal is just to match that or hit a little bit higher above that. We got to manage the RPE with how heavy things are, because even though I have the strength, the fatigue will hold me down a little bit. So we're gonna hit 325 or higher, but I gotta manage the RPE. That's my primary focus with today. Just making sure that I'm managing my fatigue, hitting numbers that are recoverable, because it's only Monday and we have the whole week to go. But we're gonna do that today and just knock it out of the park, because it's a good week. We only have 2 more hard weeks of work before we deload, and we're just gonna keep pushing, man. Like, we're just gonna keep going through the motions and getting this shit done, because like this day's coming and I'm so stoked. This is like, I'm mostly excited just because like this is like the biggest challenge. Like, it's such a cool thing where I get to work all these little pieces of programming in together, and the logistics of the meet and marathon day and nutrition and all that good stuff, and I love it. So super stoked. We're gonna get squats today and we're gonna crush it, and the rest of this week is just gonna be amazing. I can feel it. So let's go.
I never killed anybody, but I got something to do with that body. I got this grease on my back, carry it like I'm moving the body. I told him to shoot 100 rounds, like he trying to move it about it. It was like 11 in the morning, skipping school, that's a truancy about it. I made me some rats in the morning, I had me a pack by the morning, I had me some racks by the morning, I had a 6-pack by the morning, I got on a meat on the morning.
Alright, guys, I'm gonna get real for a little bit, because this video is not as up to date as I would like, but that was necessary. So anytime you do any sort of like powerlifting, meet prep, or like big strength competition, or I would assume any competition for that matter, the weeks leading up to it can be hard. And for me, they get especially hard when I do weight cuts. So, side note, this morning was my lowest weight. I'm down to 166 flat. When I started this program, I was 173, 174, and that was like the first week of January, and it's the 3rd week of March. So, that being said, the last couple weeks have been hard. I have been so tired. I've been so fatigued. I have just like mentally checked out some days. I've really just had to like lay low, you know, really push through some like mental and physical barriers. And that included not videoing. That included like less time posting on Instagram. That included, you know, less time giving myself to other people, including this. And so I want to apologize because I wasn't able to be as transparent on here and available to this channel that I wanted to be. But that being said, we are like 8 days away from meet prep, like meet day, like meet marathon day. Today I laid out the outline of what Friday, Saturday, Sunday look like. You know, Friday's like weigh-ins the day before, Saturday is actual meet and marathon, and then obviously Sunday needs some planning because it's going to be a recovery day. But that being said, in addition to me not being able to video as much, what videoing I did do got wiped from my SD card. So that's just something I'm dealing with now. No biggie, because nothing lost. It's okay. Well, stuff was lost, but it's not a big deal. So where we're at now is it's Thursday of week 11. Next week is deload week 12. We did an 8-mile this past weekend. It went pretty well. Did an SBD day the day before that. So obviously the 8-mile was a little bit harder than I would have liked. But I had to get ready to understand what it was going to feel like next weekend. So, that being said, this week we did top single and squats 315 on Monday. Then honestly, it's been kind of like a slow week because I felt really fatigued, I felt really tired, and I needed more rest because my body just wasn't doing too hot. So today, we did a CrossFit workout this morning with some rowing and burpees. This afternoon, I'm about to get bench, and we're gonna do just a nice little 2-mile. Tomorrow, we have squats and deadlifts. Deadlifts will be my last heavy session. Saturday, we'll do a moderate run, somewhere between 4 and 5 miles. And then next week is just deload. And I can relax, recover, eat some more food, do a little bit of a water manipulation Thursday, Friday, weigh in Friday morning, go ham, and then it's like, it's meet day. So like, this stuff is coming up on us. But I'm really excited. Just wanted to be a little transparent on here because I haven't been as present as I would like because I've just been so fatigued, which is normal with powerlifting cuts for me. Like, it's completely normal for me. I've just never done a powerlifting meet in conjunction with trying to maintain a YouTube channel, working full-time, and doing all this other insane stuff that I'm doing. But it's been great, and I'm very grateful. So love you all. We're gonna go get bench in that 2-mile, and we're just gonna finish out the rest of this week strong. So let's go.
I got on a meat on the mountain. Rats keep me up on the podium. I had a back in my shoulder. You got a picture me rolling. You got the picture me rolling. Pacific ice on the ocean. Ready for war like I'm Russia. Ladies should never the luggage. By now they tussling.
Alright guys, welcome back to another episode on my channel for the meet and marathon. We have made it. So it is the end of week 11. We're going into week 12, and I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling a little better than I expected, given the circumstances of this program. I've mentioned in previous videos that no week of this program has been perfect because I've missed runs, I've missed lifts, you know, I've been hurt. I've had my shoulder injury since the first week of January. That's getting better. We're like 80%. I had the shot in my knee for a cortisone shot in my knee halfway through this program. I got my COVID shot a couple weeks ago, and I got sick after that for a little while. Just so many things, you know, which is fine. I knew this program was going to have its hurdles. The hurdles were just a little bit bigger than I thought they were going to be. But we made it over all of them. So, we're doing okay. We're still alive. This past week, I spent a lot of time putting together my meet day kind of outline. So I put together the food I'm going to be eating the day before, after weigh-ins, the day of, and the day after. I put together a schedule of what my days look like for those 3 days. And I put together kind of my lifts for my opening attempts and what I kind of want to land at the meet. I am a very confident lifter, which means when I go into a meet, I like to look at the other athletes around me and know where I'm at. And I also kind of preach that, like, if I'm doing a meet, especially like a local meet, as cocky as it is, I will go into it saying I'm going to get first. So I've been kind of going over some things that's going to put me in that good position. I know that my initial goal with all of this was a completion goal, just complete the meet, complete the half marathon. But I know I can do both, and I know my body, and I know that even if I have to, walk that last mile or whatever of the half marathon, which I won't, I know I'm going to get them done. So I want to push a little bit, and I knew that I was going to have that mindset coming into this at this point, because it's easy to say that after you've done all the work, even though you should kind of be a little conservative just so you can get them both done. However, I can do this, and I know I can do it, so we're going to get it done. Today, I really want to go into, in this video, a little bit of information on why this program is so weird, why it is so, not accepted by the fitness and exercise community, and why lifters don't do half marathons and half marathons don't do powerlifting meets. So we're going to go into a little bit of a lifting and versus running kind of showdown a little bit. So we have lifting on this side, running on this side, i.e. for this meet, a powerlifting meet and a half marathon on this side. So I want to go into this. It's just going to be a quick overview. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments and I will get to them, I promise. But this is just kind of a quick snapshot of why these things are so different. Our bodies are built to, when we start a training program, our bodies are built to focus kind of on one thing. So if I focus on powerlifting, I'm working on absolute power, derived from strength and my body's ability to lift one rep, which you can train into, obviously. So, typically when you do a powerlifting program, you do anywhere from 12 to 14, 15 weeks on a program with some deloads. You start with kind of like a higher rep, hypertrophy, like muscle growth, kind of muscle building stage. And then you transition into a strength stage, which is going to bring you into reps of 5 or 6, around that 80% threshold of your 1 rep max, sets of 4, sets of 5. And then you kind of taper that into sets of 3 and 2s and top singles into a power phase. And that power phase is going to be anywhere from 90 to 105, 110% of what your previous 1 rep max was on a squat, bench, or deadlift. So that being said, that kind of program, say this program was 12 weeks, that kind of program brings a lot of fatigue. And you always do a deload before a meet to make sure your fatigue drops enough so that you can compete at that high super compensated level after this program. So this program kind of stair steps you up to this powerful ability that your body has after all this conditioning and training so that you can compete. Now, with this program, the reason that's controversial in the fitness community is because instead of me having those deloads and those structured blocks, on top of my lifting, I've had runs. So my fatigue is just kept going up and up and up. So no matter when I deloaded in the middle of this 12 weeks, it didn't really matter because I always had something that was contradicting the deload. Whether my deload was in lifting, I was running, which was not allowing me to recover from fatigue, or if my taper for a week or so was in running, I didn't really get a break from lifting. So I tried to manipulate this program into seeing whether I could kind of balance that out. And in another video, I can definitely go into what this program actually looks like. But for today, we're going to stick to lifting versus running and what the requirements are with energy systems and how that works with your body. So starting out, we will start out with energy systems. Powerlifting, especially 1 rep maxes, works the phosphagen system. So that's going to be the quick 1 rep system in your body. It's a very fast kind of source of energy for, say, a 0 to 6 second timeline. So a jump, like a box jump, or a 1 rep max, just that quick pull, or just 1 rep of something. That's going to be your powerlifting. This can also move into your fast glycolytic system, which is going to cover that next 6 to 30 seconds. So 0 to 6 seconds is your phosphagen, 6 to 30 seconds is your fast glycolytic. That's going to be your power and strength area. So when you're doing reps of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and they fit in this 0 to 30 second time frame, you're using these 2 energy systems. So they're on that end of the spectrum. Whereas when you come over to running, you're in the glycolysis and oxidative system. So your oxidative system is going to be anything that's 3 minutes or more. So, you know, when you go out and do a run that's an hour and a half long, you're going to be primarily in your oxidative system because you've already used up kind of the resources that you had in these previous systems. You know, you start out with your phosphagen, and then as you burn through them, you kind of stay in that oxidative. So no matter what, you're going to be burning, for the most part, mostly, oxidative is going to be mostly fats. You're going to still be burning some glucose and carbs that are stored up in your body. However, the oxidative system is mostly going to be fats, and glycolysis is going to be kind of glycogen built up in your muscles. That's going to be 2 to 3 minutes. That's going to be sprints or intervals. But moving into your longer runs, anything over 3 minutes, which is going to be anything over like an 800 or into a mile, you're going to be here. So energy systems with lifting are going to be those two short, really quick energy systems that use glucose and stored carbohydrates in your body in the form of glycogen. And you're running in half marathon, side is going to be more of that oxidative system. Moving into intensity, your lifting is going to be extremely high intensity. So when I'm doing 1 rep at 100% of my 1 rep max, that's extremely high intensity. Whereas on the other side of this, when I'm doing all of my runs, it's going to be high with sprints or interval work, but it's going to be extremely low when I'm doing my long runs or pretty much anything over a mile, because my pace for this stuff has been like 9 to 10 minutes per mile, so that I can get used to that pace for what I want my goal pace to be for the half marathon. So you have extremely high intensity over here, extremely low intensity over here. So again, two very opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to what your body is actually doing in training. Moving on, your work-rest ratios are how much rest you should take for the amount of work you're doing. With lifting, especially with high intensity, low reps, you should be doing a 1 to 12 to 1 to 20 work-rest ratio. So a 1 to 20 work-rest ratio is if I work for 1 second, I'm resting for 20 seconds. So if I'm working for whatever it is amount of time, I need to make sure my work-rest ratio is appropriate so that I can recover to do my next rep. So if I'm doing a heavy single, I'm going to rest for a pretty significant amount of time after that before I even do my next rep. So if I do a heavy single and it takes me 10 seconds, aside from this ratio, I'm still going to rest like 3 to 4 to 5 minutes before I do my next heavy single, especially in powerlifting, because you kind of just sit there and talk and hang out. Powerlifters like to just do 1 rep and rest for a while. I would know. Moving on, in running, your work to rest ratios are much lower. You know, you get up to this 3 minutes plus time frame, and you're in a 1 to 1 work rest ratio. So that means what I'm doing is I'm going and doing that long run for an hour and 20 minutes, and then I'm resting for like the rest of the day. You know, I'll do some recovery stuff. I'll walk a little bit. I'll get my heart rate down. I'll stretch and do that, but that's all rest. So this 1 to 1 versus like the 1 to 12 to 1 to 20, again, very opposite ends of the spectrum. Going into training goals, strength and power, your training goals are to be hitting strength greater than 80% of your 1 rep max, and power is going to be 80 to 90 to 100% of your 1 rep max. So obviously these percentages are extremely high intensity, high percentages. So that's going to be over kind of on the upper end of what your body's doing. You know, you're pushing that very high intensity because you're doing a heavy load for a very low amount of reps. On the other end, your endurance, related to lifting in the gym, not related to running necessarily, is going to be 67% of your 1 rep max or less. So typically when you're training for a half marathon, when you are in the gym, which you rarely are, doing actual lifting, you're going to be lifting very low loads for a lot of reps because you're trying to build up the endurance of your muscles to be able to run the half marathon. And in this case, with running especially, you're never going to be really lifting anything more than 80% of your 1 rep max because it just makes you too fatigued to actually perform in an endurance event. And you're building different goals. You know, when you're working on 80% or higher, you're working on strength and power. You know, that's going to work really great for a sprinter, for a long jumper, for somebody who's doing, you know, some sort of interval work. But that's going to very much so contradict what an endurance athlete needs to do, and anything over 5 miles, I would argue, is endurance, and you could even argue that a 4 mile is endurance for some types of athletes. So, two opposite ends of the spectrum again. Lastly, we have program design. When you're doing a strength training program, coming from somebody who coaches a lot of strength athletes, you're training 4 to 5 times per week in the gym. 1 to 2 hours at a time, and absolutely no running. Under no circumstances would I take one of my powerlifters who's trying to compete at a high level and tell them to go run, unless they had some other goals that we were working on. When I was training for the Arnold, when I was training for nationals, for like an entire year, I think the amount that I had ran in that entire year was like less than a mile. Like I never ran. Whereas we're in March of 2021 and I already ran 130 miles this year alone. So strength training is going to be 4 to 5 times per week. Absolutely no running. No cardio really at all, because you want to train that upper threshold of building into a high intensity phase where you're lifting 90+% of what your run at max is, so that you can go into a meet and your body is ready for that. On the other end, we have running program design. A running program is going to run you 3 to 4 to 5 runs per week, depending on what kind of athlete you are. The beginner athletes being on that 3 end, pro athletes being on that 4 or 5 end, or even 6, depending on who you are. And there's very little lifting. I would say if I'm making a run program for somebody, I would put them in the gym 3 to 4 times, or put them in a run program that's going to run them 3 to 4 times per week with different types of runs. And then I would put them in the gym once or twice per week, working on, again, endurance, less than 67% of their 1 rep max, making sure the load is low and the reps are high, and they're running specific exercises. So 2 very, very different things when it comes down to program design. So overall, when it comes to energy systems to program design, lifting versus running are 2 opposite ends of the spectrum. That is why this program that I have so crazily decided to adopt is so odd, especially in the fitness community, because these things are on opposite ends of the spectrum of what your body is doing in each individual sport. So if you're a lifter, you're lifting heavy things, greater than 80% of your 1 rep max for, 5, 6, or, 3, 4, or 2, 1 reps. So when you're on the endurance side of that with running, you're doing high reps, you're doing 12 to on the upwards of 15 to 20 reps of accessories, and those are very opposite things. So running this program, I knew I was going to hit a lot of hurdles, because the sheer amount of demand I was putting on my body and conflicting and contradicting demands was high. So not only was I putting a lot of stress on my body by running this program, which it was a lifting and running program together, but I was also putting contradicting and, opposite demands on my body. And a lot of the times your body gets, muscle confusion, and you're not really able to get better at either one of them. You just kind of stay baseline. So my observations with my own program, I was attempting to hit 4 runs per week and 4 lifts per week. Most weeks I came out to 3 runs per week and 3 or 4 lifts per week. It just depended. Some weeks I only got 2 lifts in, some weeks I only got 2 runs in. But that's just kind of how it panned out. My observations coming from that are, I did get stronger. I was able to build my deadlift back up to over 400 pounds. My squats did stall out at 315. I wasn't able to get any higher than that. And if I was not running, I would have been able to get higher than that. Bench is kind of a disclaimer right now, because my shoulder's still injured, and that's aside from the fact. However, my physical therapist and I have discussed how running and the repetitive movement of being here has not allowed me to recover in my shoulder as quickly as I normally would. On the other end, we have runs, where I think around the 7-week mark, my runs peaked there, because I did a 9 mile and I felt really, really great. But the 7-week mark was also when I was transitioning into kind of the 8 or 9 weeks, going into my power phase, which is my 80 to 91% or 80 to 90% of my 1 rep max phase. So, I got into my 9 mile, but I also was transitioning into that power phase immediately after. And if you look back at where my runs kind of peaked on where they, felt really good and kind of where they started to decline a bit, it was at that transition and inflection point. So I think the program, it did what it could do. I'm regardless of any outcomes, I am a powerlifter who can deadlift more than 400 pounds, squat more than 300 pounds, bench a pretty high amount, and I can still go run a half marathon, or at least we're going to see if I can. I know I can. I'm going to get it done. So this was the point of this video today. Just wanted to go over some of these things. If you have any questions, please drop them in the comments this was like a rough kind of review of what it looks like when you compare lifting to running, and why this program is so controversial, and why some of the outcomes are very contradicting of each other. But this was kind of just a rough picture of why most people don't do this stuff. So, all right, guys. So thank you so much for tuning in to another week. I hope you guys were able to take something from this, and hopefully you were able to take some knowledge away from this, what programming kind of looks like for these two sports, and why these two demands were so like contradicting of each other. So thank you for tuning in again. This channel has been really, really fun. I've learned so much, and hopefully have shared some with you. I have deload week this week, and then it is go time. So the next video you will see will be a meet and marathon recap. Super stoked for that. Go ahead, hop over to my Instagram page, hit me up on Built by Brooke. I keep all my updates on there, so if you want meet day updates, they will be on my Instagram page. However, otherwise you'll just have to wait for that video to come out the following week. So thank you guys for tuning in. It is go time, so let's go get it!
Jumping in the bed, then I switch to the ghost like, who's you? Remember this face, cause I'm that bitch you gon' lose to. Dripping in ice, fuck you looking at, screw you. It's squad goals win, all your bitches pretty like no.
I never killed anybody, but I got something to do with that body. I got the streets on my back.